During World War II, the American military faced a lethal mathematical problem. B-17 bombers were taking heavy fire over Europe, and commanders needed to find exactly where to add armor to keep their pilots alive. Officers mapped out the damage on every returning bomber. A clear pattern emerged. The wings, the tail, and the central fuselage took the heaviest hits. The data suggested a logical response: place armor directly over those specific target areas. But statistician Abraham Wald reviewed the records and proposed the opposite: put armor on the pristine parts of the plane. He realized they only looked at survivors. A plane hit in the engine or the cockpit didn't return to be counted. This is survivorship bias, the logical error of concentrating on entities that passed a selection process while overlooking those that did not. By focusing only on the winners, we create a filtered reality that leads to dangerously incorrect conclusions. In 1987, the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association published a study on cats falling from high-rise windows. The data revealed a bizarre finding. Cats falling from higher than 6 stories had a higher survival rate and fewer injuries than cats falling from lower heights. To explain the numbers, scientists proposed a physiological theory. They suggested that after falling about 5 stories, a cat reaches terminal velocity and physically relaxes, which helps absorb the impact trauma. However, the terminal velocity theory ignores the missing data. A cat that dies instantly from a 10-story fall is rarely brought to a veterinarian. Those animals are missing from the records the study relied on. The researchers had unintentionally filtered their sample by survival. The data skewed positive, not because higher falls were safer, but because the fatal outcomes had simply erased themselves from the record. In the 1930s, parapsychology researcher Joseph Banks Rhine believed he had found subjects with genuine ESP. He based his findings on a few individuals who guessed Zener card sequences with an accuracy that seemed mathematically impossible. Science writer Martin Gardner later identified the flaw. If you gather a large enough sample of people, pure mathematical chance dictates that 1 or 2 individuals will guess several sessions correctly in a row. Rhine had disregarded the thousands of subjects who failed at earlier stages. By focusing only on the strong telepaths who succeeded, he mistook simple luck for a psychic phenomenon. We see this same error in modern medical research. A 2001 study claimed that Academy Award-winning actors live almost 4 years longer than their peers who were never nominated. The survival advantage disappeared when statisticians reanalyzed the data. The original study suffered from immortal time bias, crediting the winner's years of life before they won toward their survival after winning. Because you must survive long enough to win an Oscar, the winner group was naturally filtered for longevity. This problem is known as positive results bias. When we only publish and read about statistical flukes or coincidences, random chance begins to look like causation. The modern media often attempts to reverse engineer success by studying the habits of billionaire college dropouts. We analyze the routines of visionaries like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, searching for a specific blueprint that allowed them to beat the odds and build global empires. Financial writer Nassim Taleb calls the data we ignore silent evidence. For every famous founder, there are thousands of equally skilled dropouts whose businesses failed and vanished. We don't study them because their failure makes them invisible to the public eye. The finance sector uses this mechanism to hide poor performance. Today, the majority of active mutual funds claim to perform in the top quartile of their peers. This line chart shows how that's possible. Losing funds are often quietly closed or merged into successful ones. By deleting the failures from historical indexes, investment firms ensure that the remaining survivors look like consistent winners. Any strategy for success is effectively worthless if the advice is based on environment where the losers have been systematically erased from the record. This is a timeless human flaw. In ancient Greece, Diogenes of Melos was shown paintings of sailors who survived shipwrecks after praying to the gods. He noted that there were no paintings of the sailors who also prayed but drowned. Survivorship bias even distorts history. Historians disproportionately study large, successful organizations like the Women's Institute because they were well organized enough to maintain accessible archives. Smaller groups that did significant work are often ignored simply because they didn't survive to tell their story. Modern businesses still exploit this blind spot. Dating services like eHarmony advertise success rates measured against a pre-screened population, individuals who are already more likely to succeed and lack the traits that pose obstacles to finding a partner. When we ignore this silent evidence of failure, the advice we receive is essentially a collection of survivors describing their luck. The next time you encounter a miracle statistic or a foolproof success story, your instinct shouldn't be to study the winners. To find the truth, you have to look for the failures. You have to ask where the losers went, and you must always look for the missing bullet holes.